4 o'clock, like they do the 4 o'clock. And then you know what they do to us people that can't do the 4 o'clock? They post these 4 o'clock gratitude pictures on social. It's
I'm not
like
that person. I'm not that
just
person.
just just rub it in your face, right? Like, holy cow, that's brutal.
I wasn't
Brutal.
always a 4 o'clock person. I used to be a bartender and a waitress. I was a late nighter, but as you get
Yeah,
older, things change, jobs change.
yeah.
So
Well, it's
4 o'clock
it's
used to be when I was going to bed, not when I was getting
I
up.
you know what? I remember those. I remember those. I got a book coming out in December, and I'm starting to tell those stories of, and we all know everyone's got a ton of those if you grew up in the industry, those stories, and they're all kind of coming back
Yeah.
now that I'm starting to maybe open up that mind again, those memories. Oh boy. Yeah, 4 o'clock was early sometimes to go home, right? It was 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, the sunrise. See people going to work. You're going home.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I do
Yeah,
remember those
I
days.
remember those.
I'm really glad there wasn't social media when I was,
Yeah.
you know, that everyone didn't have a camera on their phone back then.
Do you know how many people say that? There's so many people that say that nowadays that are our age going, thank God. Thank God.
It must be so tough for kids now, though. And I shouldn't even say kids. My kids are 30, and even they didn't have it as bad as the ones that do now. Like, it just must be you gotta watch everything. You gotta be
Well,
careful.
you got to watch what you're saying, what you're doing. This is it's mind blowing what they have to do and deal with, and they live with them glued to their hands. Like, do not
I
like.
think that's switching though. Like I do
Do
like
you think so?
I know that I have 3 sons, and none of them are on social and never really were, and they are not glued to their phones. And then I was
Really?
watching
That's huge, though.
something, and they're all in the industry too. Um,
Really?
yep. And then I was watching some things about what are they calling it? Where they're like they go on long flights and they're not, using their phones or watching the
Oh
videos
yeah.
and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, good. I think people are like, I think they're like kind of sick of it, some of them.
Well,
So
yeah. I'm with you. I think social media though usage is up, and maybe it's
is it
yeah, it's up. Like they
globally
say,
or
do you
like,
hear? I got some cool stats when because I do training on this stuff. Do you know? Here we go. This will blow your mind. 90s, and this is Canadian. 97% of Canadians are on social media every day. Guess for how long?
an hour?
The length of the Godfather movie, part one.
Was that 3 hours?
2 hours and 48
Okay.
minutes a day.
That's but also then what's the social media?
Well, it's like TikTok or Instagram, Facebook, all those channels.
Yeah, like I'm
And
on LinkedIn, so I'm technically on social media,
there
but
you go. There you go.
so, like I'm like, is there some kind of social media that isn't like TikTok or Instagram or like I don't know. Like I'm hopeful.
Isn't that crazy though? That is crazy. So if
I
there
don't
is a
well, if you
movement,
go down that I think it's I because it happens to me. Who are we kidding? Like where you go down this rabbit hole and you're like, how did I get lost for an hour and a half on nonsense? And then you're
isn't
oh
it
my God,
amazing? Do you
yes,
find it amazing? Like you sit in a meeting, and I'm sure you've sat in millions of meetings, that you sit in a meeting for an hour and you're like, you're kind of waiting, looking at the clock. You can blow through an hour on social media in like a blink of an eye. Yeah.
right? It's bizarre. Like I
Isn't
actually
it?
deleted all of my social media off of my phone because I did find myself getting sucked in. I'm like, why? I don't care. Like, I don't need a new recipe. Like, what is wrong with you?
There's like all these things like they talk about like late night swiping now, like is a problem. It's like an
Yeah,
addiction.
yeah.
Like late night, like if you have this addiction, you have these problems. I'm like, holy cow, they're starting to categorize me and all these other people that are out there. It is insane. Insane. I hope it gets better. I hope you're onto something. I hope
Uh,
it gets better
I
because did you hear about this other thing? So totally off topic of everything about. I want to talk about you more, but have you seen that the WHO has just put out this warning about loneliness?
uh-huh. No, I haven't seen it, but I'm not surprised.
There's this whole thing right now of people being alone that it's actually impacting our healthcare.
Yeah.
How
Loneliness
Crazy.
is what kills people.
That's what they
The
said.
number one killer is loneliness. Yeah.
It's loneliness, and it's not getting better. And not that it's a shameless plug of my book, but my book is called Alone in Hospitality. But it is, there's this big movement of people trying to kind of group together and start to talk. Like, can you believe it that we actually are going to probably see webinars on how to have a conversation or how to talk to people?
But it makes perfect sense to me. Like, we just went so far the other way. There is also this doctor or academic in New York, and I was listening. I don't know. I think his name's Scott something, but it is men. It's really impacting men. This loneliness thing, like this.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I mean, everybody. But then I can't even remember all the stats he was saying. I'm like, oh my god. As a mother of three sons, I'm like, oh my gosh. But they work in
Well,
hospitality. They're very chatty.
but it is those things like when you think about men, they tend not to be like open with their emotions as much. And maybe I can see that being it's no different than I think, well, not different, maybe it is, but when there is eating, like men have eating challenges or eating
Yep,
problems as well, right? And a lot of people kind of dismiss that. It's like, no, they do too,
yep,
right? It's
100%.
yeah, yeah. So well, thanks again for spending time with us, and it's a complete honor to have you on our show. And I always see your posts. So first of all, we got to clear some things up. You're very active on social media, so thank you.
On LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn,
On
yes,
LinkedIn. That's it.
yes, on LinkedIn, right? But you what you're doing with Second Harvest, and I remember seeing you at a conference I was at Cisco's conference,
Oh, cool.
um, calling this out, which was good. I remember you're, and I've been doing that conference for 14 years. Out of the 14 years, are the first time that you called someone out. You called us out on how we should be supporting more and providing this shift in the industry, supporting more places like Second Harvest and what you do. And I was sat there in the audience going, well done. Well done. That was awesome. I remember it so clear because it was like, wow, that was awesome. But I think what you're doing, and I see your post all the time, and you're educating a lot of people. Like your education isn't your edu. I always say edutainment. You're educating us, and is really, I guess it gets to us. It resonates, is what I'm trying to say. So I just want to thank you for taking the time and spending with us.
Hey man, the restaurant guy. Like my whole life is restaurants. I love restaurant. Like I'm an interesting CEO in HR. I'm like, if they have bartender or waitress or waiter or server on their resume, you want to snap them up. You just, because I know what that's like. I know the
Hmm.
skills. They, we don't get enough credit in this industry, and these are such transferable skills. You have to learn how to be in the weeds and deal with multiple personalities. Like there is no better training ground for any job, in my opinion, than working in service.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough gig,
Yeah.
it's well, you're in trouble, but it's like the hospitality army that people get into, and you have to have thick skin to stay in the
Yeah.
industry too, and to operate businesses and to move forward with it. So I totally get it. It's I agree with you. You have to snap those people up. But I want to talk more about you, Lori. I want to learn more about you. You've just now. I remember when you got awarded the Ontario. Tell me if I'm getting this right. The Order of Ontario Award.
Yes.
What is that?
Oh,
That
that's
sounds really important.
it is the highest civilian honor you can get in Ontario. I'm kind of a big deal, you
You're
know. The Governor General gave it to me.
serious?
Serious. Oh no, it's actually a pretty
I
big deal.
know, but like I said, I like no. I've got my homework here. I remember seeing the post about it. I remember I remember you getting it, and I was like, wow. So
I was
that's a
kind of like,
huge honor.
wow. It was. It's a huge honor, but I
How
mean,
did you
it's
find out? How did you find out? They call you?
yeah. They must have called me. No, I think they emailed me actually. Yeah, they emailed me. Yeah.
Okay. What was that like? What was that like?
Cool. It was very cool. I was very. It's a very proud moment.
Yeah.
It was it was it's awesome. It's really awesome, and it's not about the recognition. It just feels like where I came from to where I was. It was like I couldn't have planned this trajectory of my life, and so really that I have it means anybody could have it. Quite frankly, like there's I'm no better than anybody else. We're all awesome.
Well,
So,
I don't know. I don't fucking agree with you. I think you're incredible in what you
but I think
do.
we're all incredible. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think I'm unique. I think so many of
but
us are.
people all but you have like I always say this, and I think what you do, you inspire others. Then I think that makes you incredible is how you inspire others to do things like you do with Second Harvest, and I think that's important that we honor those people and put them on, give them an award like that, which is
A
crazy
fancy
cool.
pin they can wear everywhere they go.
That's got to be really cool, though. I'm completely honored on that. So, how did you? First of all, how did was this on your map of journey of career choices? Was to be the
No,
CEO
of
of Second Harvest?
course not.
Was was
No,
it wasn't in that grade 10? Let's find out
no.
what your career job's going to be in the
Hilarious.
future. No,
I'm a high school dropout, man.
there was like now you're getting the top honor. No
I did
wonder.
go back and get my GED, so I did graduate.
Okay, okay.
Um, but yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. I've been working in hospitality since I was 14. Mother's Pizza started there, and then just bartended and waitressed at different bars, and because the money was great. It was the 80s. It was
Mhm,
wonderful. It was also a lot of fun. And
mhm.
then I got married very young, and I had children very young. Like, well, not very young, but I was 21, 23, and 26 by the time I'd had three. So
In today's world, that's young, right?
in today's world, that's young. But I mean, in my parents' world, I wasn't young. So,
Yeah.
um, but it was pretty young, and so that's why I went back and got my GED, because I remember thinking, oh, well, I can't tell my son he has to graduate from high school if I didn't. So that's when I got back, and I went to college for a couple of years for computer science, because I was looking at the job, like the paper. When you looked at the paper for jobs, and everybody was wanting computers, and I'm like, oh, I should do that. So I did graduate as a systems analyst from college, but I'm like, wow, I'm not a coder, even though I can code. It's not my personality type.
Wow.
So yeah, so I started there, but then I had this kind of uh, horrible moment in my life where my husband left, and I was low income, and I had three sons that were very young that I had to
Mhm.
feed and house, and my husband had left, and we were $10,000 in arrears in the rent, which I had no idea about. And I mean, I was working at the bar. I've always been working at a bar, and so that was like, oh my, like this catalyst, kind of this moment of so I was working at this bar called Slip Mahoney's, and I said, "Give me every shift you can give me." And I was working like I remember sleeping on that floor, and they were so great. Tiny little hole in the wall, Irish pub. We had bands. It was like cool. But at the same time, the child nutrition program at my son's school, they didn't have one. They wanted one, and they asked me if I would run it, and I said, "You betcha," because I needed actually to feed my own kids. So I started feeding all the kids and essentially becoming a small entrepreneur, right? Because you have to find the money, because they didn't give you money. You have to get
Mhm.
staff, except for not staff because you can't pay them. So it's volunteers. You have to understand health inspections. You have to literally go out and shop the food. You have to make sure you have a menu that people will actually eat. That, so it
Wow.
really was this great stepping stone for me of becoming a little entrepreneur by accident, kind of, and taking those skills, and it's like, through the course of your life you just grow, and you're good at something, somebody asks you to do more, and that the best way to grow is, or the best way to get something done is to give it to a busy person, and I've always been a busy person, so that's kind of what happened. So then I was working like three jobs. Can you do this part-time? And I was working four
Wow.
jobs, and I'm like, okay. And I did that for a few years, and then I got a job as a director, and then another director, and then a VP, and then la la la. Now here I am today.
So where did Second Harvest come in? Like
So
when did that start?
I've been here for 10 years.
10 years?
Second Harvest has been around for 40 years. I think we're 39 years. But it was a small grassroots charity in North York and Toronto. And I was working in child nutrition. So my whole life I've been working in feeding kids and building community, like teaching really marginalized moms how to run businesses and these student nutrition businesses. So was working. I got asked to work for an organization called Breakfast Clubs of Canada. Um,
Okay, yeah.
and yeah, and because they were fairly new, they were big in Quebec, but they weren't big across the country. But I'd been working at another place called Food Share, so it was a Toronto organization, but there's a lot of great models that we were building across the country. And they said, "Come work for us. We need to build out um, Breakfast Clubs of Canada across the country." And the job was like, yeah, go to different governments and ask for their data and tell them you can give them money. It wasn't like a terribly hard job, right?
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
I had friends across the country. I'm like, how can I help you feed your children? So I did that for a while, but then I was just traveling so much. And I was like, my gosh, Lori, your kids are all grown up and you're not seeing them. Like, you're not, you got to be better. So
Yeah.
I'm like, so I scaled that one. I scaled another organization nationally. And then I'm like, okay, I need to go back locally. Let's just go to a nice local place. And so I got this job and it was close. And then, of course, because of my history, I'm like, this is a good idea, but we need to actually fix it. This could be national. This could be this. This could be that. And so that's the way I looked. I just changed the whole vision. And and also like it was great. It was feeding people, but it wasn't really like it's about food waste, right? Like it's the
Mhm.
problem. We've got a big food waste problem. So we're not a food bank. Let the food banks do what they do. They do a great job. Let's like carve our own space out, and that's food waste. So
You
that's
gotta give us some stats, Lori, because I've heard some of the stats from you before.
they're outrageous. And what was more
Yes. This
outrageous,
is this is this is mind-blowing.
it is mind blowing, but the outrageous part is that we didn't have the data. So when it, like I'm here, I'm like, okay, so how much waste is there in Canada? There wasn't any data. So it was Second Harvest that found the money to get the actual research done. And then we learned by hiring a Value Chain Management International, 58% of all the food produced for Canadians is lost or wasted. 58%. And now some of that is unavoidable, but of the avoidable, it's like 32% of that. So like 11.2 million metric tons. So enough to feed every Canadian for like 4 or 5 months for free.
What?
Yeah. So how do we and there's a piece of like people are literally hungry in our country that need food, but also this food is going to landfill where it's creating methane gas, which is a direct contributor to the climate crisis. Like just it's not like it's silly. This is such a common sense thing. Like, okay, well, let's take this food and make sure we give it to people and and manage that while we work on some policy interventions so that none of this has to happen at all. Like, I mean, if you've heard me say this, I don't think most charities should exist. Charities exist where policy doesn't. If we had good policy, we
So
wouldn't
true.
exist. So I'd much rather we fix the problem than just keep band-aiding this thing. Like, let's
And that's
fix
what charities is the Band-Aid, right? Like, it's that
exactly,
Band-Aid approach,
exactly.
right? Now, is it so I work with a lot of restaurants and stuff like this, and we'll talk about that connection back. But is it ever like, do you see a day that this is never needed? Do you ever like in maybe 10, 20 years, 100 years, whatever? You think we'll ever get there, Lori?
Which part? That
Well,
second, like people
yeah,
don't need to eat, or that there
no,
won't be food
no,
waste.
that there won't be food waste. Like we'll finally figure it out.
Well,
Like
say
I
yes.
know it's a tough
I want to say
question.
it's not. I mean, it's not because this is my space and I work
Yeah.
in it. And like, I think the will is there. I think most. Here's the truth: nobody produces food, nobody buys food, nobody manufactures food, nobody sells food because they want to throw food away. That's a fact. Nobody's is like, yes, let's get this food and chuck it. Having said that, it's not an individual responsibility. It's a systems issue, right? Like,
Mm,
so the system is broken. We have a broken food system for many reasons. So, yes, do I think this is fixable? 100%. But you need to have the will to fix it, and you need
mm,
the government will to fix it. So, even in Canada, we have made a commitment to the UN. We made it in 2015 to half food loss by 2030. Half it. Well, if the only person or organization that's actually measuring it is this charity called Second Harvest, how do you have something that you're not actually measuring? So if government decides to have the will, to follow through was, okay, we must mandate measurement. We must hit these targets.
Hmm.
We should support small and mid-sized businesses with whatever resources they need. If you're a big, huge business, you can pay for it yourself. But Canada's small, mid-sized businesses, let's help them to get to this place where they can mitigate as much as they can. There'll never be none. There'll always be
Hmm.
some. That's just the food system, but there shouldn't be this amount.
Is there other countries in the world that have eliminated this waste, or is there anyone better, or is there worse countries? Where do we fall in?
No, we're bad. We're really
We're
bad.
bad. Okay.
We're yeah, we're right up there. And I would say, not I would say, the truth is the challenge with Canada and food waste is we are a huge country. So we like
Mhm.
land mass wise.
Yeah.
So we are unique that way. Where interventions that work in smaller countries won't work for us because we're so, like getting food from A to B
Hmm.
is enormous. We don't have manufacturers in different places anymore. Like, manufacturing has done this. So we would need different interventions for sure. There's some places like South Korea does an amazing thing with household waste where you got to pay to play. And so you have to weigh your household waste and you get
Shut
charged.
up. Serious?
Yeah. So they were like, I think they dropped it by 90%.
What?
Household. I know. So, but again, they're a small place, like they're not small, there's a lot of people, but just geographically different, politically different. So, can we just take that and move it over here? Not as easily
Yeah.
because we don't have anything harmonized in Ontario, never mind across the country, uh, for
Hmm.
organics. But it's
So
still,
is there is it a part of the culture too of Canada? Like,
yes, yes.
it's a part of the culture. We want everything perfect,
We
and
want everything perfect. Like, I was just in Portugal and I'm at a grocery store and I'm looking at the shelves and it's what the shelves I want to see. They're not full of food. The apples are, they have the little spots on them and everything. So of course I'm going to pick the ones I want the most, but
yeah.
they don't give you the option to have only great food. It it's great food. It's fine. Like it's
Yeah.
totally great food.
Yeah.
It's just not this perfect
Picture perfect.
picture perfect. And also we have really interesting specifications. So we think of it as like ugly fruits and vegetables. We've been
Yeah.
told this nonsense. That's not what this is about. This is about specifications on, say, a tomato. So I
Yeah.
have a tomato, but my burger business is McDonald's. So I need my tomato to be this size. Well, I have enough tomatoes, so I don't want those tomatoes anymore. Can you take them A&W? Well, no, because our tomato needs to be this size. So there's some specification stuff that is just nonsensical that
Wow.
like there's potato growers that have to grow a certain size potato in the summer and a different size in the winter and they do it but it's what there's just
What?
I know that like food is so it's not like us as individuals, although everybody's pointing a finger. Well, we do
I
it
was
this
gonna
way
say
because
it feels like
consumers
everyone.
want this. Well, we want this because we're used to having it now, but there
Yeah.
was a time when that
I
wasn't
was
the case.
I was gonna ask that. When did that shift? When did we shift? Because one of my chefs used to always say, 100 years ago, Jay, everything was organic.
Well,
That's his line, right? But when did that whole thing shift that everything had to be so perfect? Was it in the 50s after the war?
well,
Probably.
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, like best before dates came in the 70s, and I would say, like, I'm bored.
Did they?
Yeah,
So there was a time there wasn't best before stuff.
absolutely. And they are nonsense. Don't even get me started on best before dates. Oh my lord, so much waste. Um, but
I
I think
hate them. I hate them too. I hate them
because
too.
they're nonsense. They're just ridiculous and such a waste. They waste so much food, and so I'm working on policy and pushing the government. We are like
Nice.
that's we need to stop this. But I think what happened is the more urban we become, the more removed we are from our food. And so
Yeah.
food has become a commodity. And it's not, when I grow something in my garden, and my garden is this tiny, it always tastes better, right? Like, and it's
Yeah.
mine, and I'm never going to waste that. When I'm not as close to my food, I don't think so much about wasting it. Not me personally, because it's my brain. I don't think about wasting it, but in general, that's kind of the thought is, and we're in abundance. We're an abundant society. The like North America and the West, we are used to having lots of everything. Like, why should you have fresh strawberries in January? You
Mhm.
shouldn't. Like, you don't appreciate them anymore because you have them all year. So it's better to have them in the summer when they're the best and they're growing close to you.
Do you know what we used to say in the restaurant industry, and the reference that we did, because in the back of kitchens and stuff like that, they misuse food a lot of the times. It's misused, or cut improperly, and whatever
Yeah.
the case is, it increases their waste. We used to always use the reference of the toothpaste. When you get your toothpaste bottle at the beginning, you're like, "Ah," and you're just like squeezing it on. You don't really care. It hits the counter, whatever, and you screw that on. But you get to near the end of it, when you got a little bit
Cool.
left, you're like totally like trying to figure out. You scroll up the thing, and you're figuring out, you're squishing as much as you can and everything else. That's how we used to say to restaurants. What part of the toothpaste are you at with the way you handle your waste or your food in the back? Right. And a lot of people don't, they take it, like you said, they take advantage of it. They misuse it or mistreat it. And it's sad. Now, do you have stats on how much food restaurants throw away?
Of course I do,
I
right in
know you
front
do.
of me. So it's 9%. And that's hotels, restaurants, and institutions. So of the whole amount. And I would, so the truth is quick serve more than full serve.
Wait, quick serve is?
Okay, let me rephrase that. Sorry. So full serve, the waste happens, but
Yeah.
typically the waste is happening, it's plate waste. It's not necessarily back of the house. I mean, it's back of the
Oh,
house too, but
true,
you
true.
can manage plate waste if you serve
Mhm.
less. So it's a business problem, but plate waste is the bigger piece where
Really? So,
quick
so
serve is,
restaurants are over portioning.
yeah. Yeah. But I mean, come on, we know that. We know
We know,
that.
well, south of the border, we're not going to point fingers.
Oh, brutal. So bad. So bad. But it's like, but we do it here too. Like
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
I go out quite frequently and I always got a Tupperware container. I'm like, I can't eat a salad. I can't. I don't
Yeah.
want to either. And I can't eat anything that is usually the size that it comes to me. We're
Wow.
just we're just used to getting it. And like when did that happen? When did portion sizes become so out of control, right? Like they never used.
Well, they never used to be, right?
No,
Like, it wasn't that the value was based in the quantity, it was on the quality of the
on the
product.
quality.
Yeah, it wasn't on the quantity, right? And I'm going to say you can probably thank a little bit of the 80s to that. I think. I think
100%.
that I think that was the 80s
Yep.
that happened, right?
The gluttony of the 80s.
It was good times. It was good
It was
times.
good times. I had a lot of fun in the 80s, not gonna lie.
So, does Second Harvest influence the rest of Canada as well? Are you guys across Canada?
We are. Yep.
And then how much? What's that like to know? Like, it's incredible, first of all, but it must be very powerful to also bring Canada together with a brand like that. Like, you're kind of, I don't want to say you're not franchising it, but you're aligning everyone on the same goals.
Yeah, we're just really trying to be that one-stop shop. So if you're a
Yeah.
food business that has surplus food, just call us. We will find a home for it. We say yes to everything. And we do it a couple ways. So when I started, I said we're this tiny little charity in Toronto, maybe doing, I don't know, $2 million a year. Now we're like a $260 million organization, um, working coast to coast to coast. And we do that and we're smart about it too, right? Like here we have a fleet and warehouse. Well, does it make sense to have fleet and warehouse across the country? No, because we did the research, because my background was low income and I know I didn't get food from a food bank was okay, let's identify everywhere that is actually giving out free food or low cost food. That's a nonprofit. And there's
Mhm.
61,000 charities and nonprofits in Canada doing that. 61,000.
61,000?
61,000. There's about 4,700 or 5,000 food banks. So it's like this
Five
big pool.
5,000? God.
Yeah. So there's a ton of infrastructure already built in. So let's use what exists. Like, why would we do that? And we also built an app. And
I
the
was gonna
app,
say, I was gonna see. I remember having you on. It was during COVID. I think we met on a show, and I think you were just getting it going. I recall.
yeah, we
Like,
we
hey,
built
tell me about this app because this is brilliant.
this app. I love this app. So we built it in 2017, I think, and we launched it in Toronto, and then we were piloting it in Ontario in
Oh,
2018,
yes.
19. And then we just went to BC. And we're like, okay, we've got this great, smart 3-year plan. We'll roll it across the country. We'll do all the smart things. And then COVID, boom. And we were like, okay, well, restaurants had all this food they couldn't use. I'm like, okay, how do we get this food?
I remember
Make
this.
sure it gets to places. And we also had all this money. I'm like, can we use this app for this to get it out? We created something called the Food Rescue Canadian Alliance. So it was like industry, government, nonprofits, all getting and northern and indigenous communities. Where's the big gaps going to be, and where are the big not gaps? Like where's the food going to be? And so there was a lot of eggs, there was a lot of seafood, there was all the stuff that would be typically served in a restaurant that people don't often buy a lot of at home. So we got on that right away, and there's an app. Get on the app, and the app is really just a matchmaker of here's the food, sends out this notification. We have X, Y, and Z. Where do you want it? And the charities will go yes or no, depending on if they have the capacity, what kind of facility they have.
Hmm.
Can they, like, they have lift gates? Do they have enough that can take skids, or can they only take sandwiches? And so that's what happened. And so we're just connecting all this food across the country directly to charities that need it, and supporting with logistics, because when there's big food, we're like, okay, we can get a truck here, we can get a truck there, let's move it, like get the food moved around. And it has been life changing for this whole country in terms of really simple access to food that wasn't available. And it's food we don't pay for, right? This is
Yeah.
food that's going into landfill. And this is like, we focus on perishable, protein, dairy, and produce, because those are the food categories people need when they're low income, they're
Hmm.
expensive, they go bad quicker. So, like, it's just a gift that keeps on giving.
That's pretty cool. It's available across Canada.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody can
What
follow.
city doesn't do a good job that we need to call them out?
Every city does a great job. I'd say
I
here's
was gonna
the
say,
app. So
who
here's
does
the thing.
need to do more?
We just need to. The truth is, we just do need to do more.
Okay.
So part of the challenge is, there's so much need. The need is endless. So we could have 10,000 charities on it. I think we support 5,000 right now. But unless you have the food in the pipeline, it doesn't mean anything. So what we
Mhm.
really are doing now is like, we need to get way more food. And last year, I think we were at 83 million pounds of food uh, that we got through the app. And so every year it's like 10 million pounds more, which is amazing.
Mhm.
But we still need way more. And so we did some other research to figure out, okay, how much food is actually even being donated in Canada and from all the businesses. And we learned
Yeah.
it's 4%. And it's not to us, it's just 4% in general. Like, okay, well, that seems like there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
uh, let's go get some more food, and then trying to understand the barriers. Like, why are people not donating? Is it just part of it is just they don't know, which is a huge part of it. They just don't know. And then there's like, people believe that there's legislative, they're going to get sued. That's not a thing. We are all protected in Canada and in the States. Nobody's ever been sued. Everybody, you can donate your food. But then there's brand, right? Like, so yeah, I'm safe. I'm not going to get sued, but it's my brand. I got to protect my brand. I don't
Yeah.
want anybody getting sick. We're a business. We're Second Harvest. We operate just like Sobeys and Loblaws or any big business.
Mhm.
We follow the same protocols because we have to, because Sobeys and Loblaws are our partners too. So we're
Yeah, yeah.
never going to put anybody at risk ever,
Mhm.
because we don't want, we're a business.
Yeah,
We
yeah, no, it's
don't want to get
exactly.
in
Yeah,
trouble
yeah.
either. So there's really no reason not to. I think outside of, do I have the capacity to donate because, say, I'm a farmer, and farmers don't have a lot of money. They might be a small farm and they can't glean the land because they don't have the labor. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I get that. So let's see if we can pay for the labor, because that's cool. We'll
Wow.
figure that out. Or if there's milk being dumped, okay, which we know there's milk being dumped. Um, but the problem is packaging. So, okay, how do we package this milk so that you can
You guys
still,
go through all those solutions with them?
we try. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
Like, milk is an interesting one in terms of, we just don't have much manufacturing. So
yeah,
even if we could pay for it, there's no facility to do it, because they're all just doing the jobs that they need to be doing to meet their own quotas with supermarkets or
yeah.
whatever. So yes, we are all about solutions. How can we get your food?
Wow. Now, okay, for restaurants out there, can restaurants join this app?
Are you kidding me? Of course, I have this number because I said, "Hey
I
guys,
was
what restaurants do we have on?" So
okay.
currently we
Okay,
have
how many?
nearly 60 restaurant businesses registered with 1,500 locations across the country, 1.3 million pounds of food last year alone. 90% of the rescue food comes from quick serve, such as A&W, Chick-fil-A, and Starbucks. I think they were the top three last year.
And
But yeah,
Starbucks.
and Starbucks. So like you
We
don't
got
have
a lot of room to grow,
you
Lori,
got
as you
so much
opportunity.
room to grow. But
Yeah.
I'm like, if Starbucks is going to use our app, trust me, you can use
They
our app.
know what
You know what I mean? Like,
so now they don't have to be a chain, they can just be an
no,
independent.
no, no,
Doesn't matter.
no. It's
Wow, I think we got some work. We got in the West here, I know we have 41,000 restaurants. That's just in the West. That's not you guys in Ontario. That's just the West.
see what I mean though? Like 4% is donating. So it seems small, but then when you think about the actual number of businesses, it's not like
No,
there's so much more opportunity there. So yeah, we should get every restaurant on this. No restaurant wants to be throwing away food. There's also a
no, they
cost of
don't.
throwing away.
No, they don't. And you know what? I think it's that like here's what I think we need to do, and maybe I'm wrong here, but we need to not only educate them, let them know. So we'll do that. We'll do that through my show and through my channels, but we'll also make sure to um, to try to help them understand the cultural shift. So instead of just throwing it out, think twice, right? Use this app. And I think that's pretty like it sounds simple in theory, but I think we can do that. Like there's no reason why you can't tell me there's 30,000 restaurants on this. And I
Yeah,
think that'd make a big
get them on.
difference.
We need to get them on. Like it's not as simple as go on the app, to be fair.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
you're at the end of the night, you're not going to get a charity come pick up your food at 1 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. So you have to go, okay, I need to store this for the night. They'll come tomorrow between 10 and whatever, not during your rush hour, obviously, but so there's that bit that is a little bit of extra work. But once you manage that piece, it's like clockwork. And the
I was
truth
just
is,
say, Laurie, it's no different than a linen company, right? It is no different than your linen company, except it
exactly,
helps people. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, for sure. So yes, please get on the app. There's definitely a charity in your neighborhood that would benefit from this food, a nonprofit in your.
Well,
And the thing is,
it's the right thing to do, let alone feeling good about it. It's the right thing to do.
yeah, it's the right thing to do. But I think restaurants typically want to do the right thing, right? Like
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
wants.
yeah. They do.
It,
Typically, they're not going against things.
so
It
I was
doesn't.
trying to make it as easy as possible for you too. Very
Yeah,
easy. We also understand, like you're busy. This is not your core business. It's our core business. So we're going to make it super, super easy for you to do it. And
doesn't
also you
cost
get
them
a ton
anything.
of
That's
data.
the biggest question. It doesn't cost them anything, does it?
Doesn't cost them a thing.
So it doesn't cost you a restaurant a
Ah,
thing.
that's not fair, actually. To be truthful,
Okay, okay,
depending on your business, it might cost you the takeout container.
okay.
So, I mean, not necessarily, but if
All
you're packing,
right,
then there could be a cost.
that's okay.
I'm not gonna
I
lie.
think, I think they'll
That's
be
a
okay.
cost, but and also like it's an 80-20 rule like everything else. So what's gonna happen is you're gonna pick a charity in your neighborhood who's
Yeah.
gonna grant it, and they're just gonna come every day or every week or whenever you decide to have it. So once that starts happening, like the app is so great in terms of you just put it in, it'll be a reoccurring donation. It will tell you how many meals you've provided. It will tell you the value of the food you provided. It will tell you
What?
the greenhouse gases that you've diverted. It will tell you the water you've saved. It gives you great data. Plus, if you are a franchise, you can roll it all up into one spot. So, like, this is my company.
Yeah.
These are all the locations. So the person at the location can see it, but you can also roll up all the data so you can see what's happening as a bigger organization. We've made this super, super simple.
Wow. Well, Lori, we'll do like I'll do what we can do at our for our show and for our reach, which we do reach a lot of restaurants and folks across the country in the United States. Are you training the US folks to do this kind of thing too?
There are some great things already happening in the States.
Okay.
The States a different. We've had people
Oh,
ask us if we would white label it to places in the States and in the
yeah.
UK and actually different places across the globe, to be honest. And And it's something we're looking at doing now. Like, yeah, I think we can. So,
Serious.
so this we will offer this up if people in different parts of the world would like to use it.
Now, this is a bizarre question in a sense because I don't know if it is, but is like first of all, I'm just blown away what you do and what you guys do. Is there ever, because this is coming up in a lot of conversations around technology, is there ever, does AI ever play a role in this?
Yes,
Okay, here we go. Like, I didn't
of
want to
course.
ask you it because I thought it was so bizarre, but
Oh,
does it?
AI plays a role in everything, and
I
we are
know.
very AI forward.
What?
We have an AI advisor.
You
My whole
wonder why
staff
you're on
went
the
to
award?
AI boot camp. I'm like, we need to be ahead of this. AI is in everything, whether you want to believe it or not. Like as soon as you're a Microsoft Word, AI is there. Grammarly is AI. Like
Yeah.
AI is everywhere. So I think there's a little bit of a confusion about what AI is,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of automation. So like, how do we make automation within the app to make everybody's life a lot easier. So it's not always, there's always going to be people. Like AI doesn't actually get rid of people. It makes your life easier so you can do less of the stuff you don't want to do and more of the stuff you do want to do. So yes, there's AI and everything, and we're just at the beginning of our journey. Although I would still say we're ahead of a lot of other places in terms of
Well,
this.
first of all, you're embracing it, which is great. You're learning
Absolutely.
about, like, I love that. Well, why I say that is I was at the National Restaurant Association show in Chicago and I saw AI garbage cans for waste. And they have the cameras that go over the garbage cans
Yeah, yeah,
and they're connected. I think IKEA uses them
yep,
and in a few places. And it's recording your garbage
yeah.
into AI. And I'm like, it's brilliant. That was probably the
They've
coolest
been around
thing I
for
saw at the whole
years,
show.
though. That's not new.
Really?
Yeah, that food waste audit stuff is not new, those cameras and managing your waste that way in restaurants. They're not new. So,
Show must be mandatory.
mm, they're
Change a lot of habits, right?
ex exactly, and that's the challenge, right? Like,
Uh,
when you know better, you do better. So a lot of this is just training and education too.
well, I did a talk, Lori, and I'm not going to say the place, but I did a talk last fall in Montreal. Say the city, Montreal, and I wanted to show a room of 200 or 300 people what waste looked like. I should send you the pictures. And I said, okay, go grab me the kitchen's garbage, not the waste garbage bins, but their garbage. And we took a table. It's a very fancy place, by the way. And this huge conference. I took a table, we laid out a garbage bag, and I dumped the garbage on the table. The amount of stuff, Lori, that was thrown away, that was like, I guarantee you those people will never forget into the rest of their lives that moment on how much food was thrown away that had a couple brown little tinges on the lettuce. The piles of bacon that was thrown out that was frozen blocked because it
Yeah,
must have got frozen, whatever, were thrown away. They thought it was staged first. I said, there's no staging here because they could not believe it. I think we worked out to the ability from what we looked at, that was one morning. And it was
right,
like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of food they threw out into
right. And look at your
like,
inventory costs. This is economically does not make sense for us to throw this
no,
food away.
no, but it was just one of those moments. It was like, I want to show you what it looks like. Here you go. And they all went, you staged it, Jay. I'm like, no, I didn't. This is real. This is real. I just grabbed it out of the back. Here's what it is. And I just don't think people see it.
They don't, but that's because we hide it, right? Like when you even think
Hmm.
about compost, it's always under something. Like it's in your house, it's in a
Yeah.
cupboard. Like literally, we hide it. And we've created a system that takes our waste away. So we don't even have to deal with it. So
Yeah.
we don't see it because we've created systems that we don't actually have to. And 100%, I think what you did was brilliant because if we literally see it, we will stop ourselves. Like if
Yeah.
you had a big glass jar on your counter that all the waste is going in here, and you just look at
Start to
that for a
see it.
little while and you'll go, oh, well. And then when you start thinking about the money, like that, what bacon? What? That's expensive. Like everything's expensive, but oh my goodness.
It was incredible. And it was just, that's what everyone said. And the lady's like, that produce is better. Well, I remember one lady's like, that produce is better than what's in my fridge right now.
Mhm.
And why I say this is a lot of times we hear about, the restaurant challenges that are out there and we hear it every day. This one's having a challenge with the food cost and this and that with what's happening. And I said, like there's a lot of things that we need to fix before we start saying that it's completely broken in the industry. And I think one of them is the waste problem that we have. And I think there's a lot of room to grow. I'm just trying to find the picture because it made me think. I didn't know it was going to be that bad
Did
when
we
we
stage
pulled it up.
this? Did I stage this? Maybe I did stage this.
No, it was so funny because I'm going to put it on my LinkedIn tonight. I wish I had a picture. I don't think it's in here somewhere, but I just think the thing is that we need to be more aware of it, be conscious of it, but not just, and I think this is what I love what you do, Lori, is that it's not just talk. And I saw that the day that you called us out on that stage. It's not just talk, because I'm sure you've seen how many people talk about this and that. It's the action is going to make the difference.
Yes. That's the fact, sir. It's the action.
It's the action, right?
The action. We have to collectively act.
Okay, can you see that?
Yep. Yeah. Oh wow, eh?
Look at that, Lori.
That's wild. Isn't that
That was,
wild? That's such a good lesson for people too.
look at that chunk of bacon. You know how much that
Right?
bacon?
I see it. I see it.
It was like, are you kidding me? So, anyways, I know it's you have to go home because I'm sure you've been there since early.
I have been. I've
I
been
know,
I've
I
been in
know
this
you.
office for over 12 hours now.
See, exactly. Oh man, you're awesome. Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us. I'm going to put some calls out. I need you to send me everything you can that I can repost for restaurants to get onto this app, and we're going to push it through our channels and make sure everyone puts it on, learns about it, needs to do what they do. We should not have any restaurant not having this. And
Uh,
they should. Do schools, like, do the associations out there in the schools learn about this, that they kind of start young?
Oh, education. Yeah,
Yeah,
we do. We have a big training and education portfolio here, but actually, to your point, we are about to, and I don't know, I'm giving away secrets, but we are actually building out a youth innovation center to do exactly that, right? Like it was,
perfect.
we recycle now because our kids shamed us into it. And
Yeah,
really, the kids that are going to shame everybody into all the good stuff that we should be doing. So, yes, and it's going to grow.
I love it. You're amazing. I just want to
You're
thank you.
amazing.
No, thank you for everything you're doing and stuff. And like you said, we'll do what we can. We'll push it out. We're gonna call everyone out now and
You
make sure that they
Second
do
Harvest
that.
Food Rescue app, you just have to go to secondharvest.ca, but you can download it on your iPhone or on your Android. Like it's available. It's also beautiful. Like you should download it anyway because just a beautiful
I,
product.
I will, because I'm going to show it to everyone that I meet with and
Excellent.
the people I work with. I'm going to promote it. I'll promote the bejesus out of it. So
Please do. Thank you.
I
That's
will.
great. I
I
love that.
will. No,
Cool.
thank you, Lori. You're just amazing. Congratulations on the award as well. I can see why you got it, and it's pretty obvious. And thank you again for spending
It means
your.
nothing to my children. It's so funny. Don't worry. I will never get an ego because
Trust me,
it
I
scares
was
me.
just. I'm the way. I'm the same way. I'm like, hey, I'm hosting the NRA show in Chicago. They're like, yeah, so what?
Nobody cares.
Who cares? I totally get it. It's
Children are great, humbling human beings.
I know they are. They plant us pretty good. Pretty good. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Lori. You have a
Okay.
great evening
You
and
too.
all the
Thanks.
best.
Thanks.
Stay connected too, and we'll keep
Yeah,
pushing out for you.
appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Lori.
Bye.